I know y'all hear the water dripping. What's up? What's up? This is Unfiltered Inner Child. Unfiltered Inner Child. Unfiltered Inner Child. That's wild. That's very catchy. That means there's no filter here. This is my third channel. And this is definitely, I'm not even gonna put titles so much so on it. It's more little episodes here and there of things, like real raw stuff in regards to like expressing just from the depths of who I am when it comes to just that inner child perspective. If you don't know what the inner child is, or just ever heard of that term, it's a connection to like how, if I could express it or explain it, would be a way of like reconnecting to the very parts of you that you thought that were lost in your childhood, and how childhood memories resurface. You know, the very things that we hold dear and tight, close to us. The nostalgia, the bliss, the not so pretty, the traumas behind the inner child, and so forth. So it's been a journey, because all of my channels leading up to this third one is very significant, because this is more of a, I feel more liberated and sovereign on this channel. It's like a new growth, revamping and recreating my image when it comes to the fact of like recently cutting my hair. We're in a full moon energy right now, Scorpio, so a lot of things, whether it's secretive, that's coming to the surface, a lot of things sitting around, like, I think like sexual traumas, childhood traumas. So this channel again is like just an evolved version again of those very things. Like if you're not familiar with the inner child, just to go a little bit more deeper, for me, my profile picture is like me. I think I had to be like, I want to say 7 or 8, but a lot of those memories around that like resurface, and whether pleasant or not so pretty, it still gives me a place to where I've gotten, well, now that I've got more safe within myself and secure, because some of those childhood experiences, dealing with your inner child, is a part of you that never leaves you. So the inner child is, no matter what your age is, no matter, you know, I don't care if you're 100 years old, there's still a little boy in there. There's still a little girl in there that when you hear a certain song, when you hear a certain, people talk about certain things, it can either be triggering, or it can also be a way of you returning back to a memory that gave you this almost feeling of like joy. So the inner child here that we talk about, again, I'm going to talk about my experiences, my personal experiences, and how important the inner child is. So this is why it's called Unfiltered Inner Child, because I'm going to be speaking on things that relate to my lived experiences, current experiences, just the fact of like the simplest things, to like seeing my son and my daughter, and how those experiences are completely different, and how much they mirror back to me how much I need not to take shit so serious. So there is things I have to update on this channel as well. On my other channels, I'll link them below. It's like I said, it's a different experience. This is more of an evolution of me returning back to my inner child, and holding tight, vowing to myself, making a vow to myself to never abandon the parts of me that other people, I realize, abandon. I know I'm washing dishes in the jacket, which is wild. I'm just not getting my sleeves wet. I'm just trying to look for something so I can wash it. So yeah, This is basically like a whole evolution to me. I don't know how to do an introduction. I'm TJ. That's my nickname. Terrence is where the T comes from, and Junior. Um, so yeah, and it's so funny because when I reference my inner child, a lot of people in my family call me TJ. A lot of people don't know my name is Terrence. So it's wild how you can grow up with different personalities or different parts of you. People never in my family have called me Terrence at all. Shit, some of them probably don't even know my real name, but they call me TJ. They know me as TJ. So, you know, TJ, it's cool. It's funny because I made this channel with the email of TJ because I just knew, I was like, hold on, this has to be a different experience because y'all get to know TJ, which is a different thing because that's so many different parts of TJ. I feel like Terrence is more the identity around a whole nother personality. That could be the Gemini moon in me. But it's all one and the same. And I feel like people have to learn to embrace, you don't have to, but embrace those parts of you because, see, the beauty of the inner child is that there are aspects of you that have been laying dormant and been kept secret, and that you are wanting to express and be the unfiltered part of who you are, the most authentic version of yourself. And I've just through experiences know that you have to learn how to nurture that inner child in you again, like to go back to the most uncomfortable parts of your life. For me, I've done things as such as like go back to the old homes that I grew up in, channel those experiences where I knew beautiful things happen and not so beautiful things that maybe could have been a traumatic experience, but it's a part of character development because no matter me being my age at 36 now, the little boy, the inner child has never left my side. And so this is when I say I vow to keep that part of me there, is because that part of me allows myself through the uncomfortability of not giving a fuck, unfiltered, like what people have to say about who I am and who I'm becoming. Because the reason why, again, the inner child is so vital because it's still a part of who you're becoming into adulthood. That little boy and girl is still there. They'll always be there until you're you know, when you're leaving this world, no matter how many gray hairs you have, if you get any. I feel like that's where a lot of people lose their joy, is they disconnect so much from those emotions, things that they repress when they get lost in their career settings and so forth. And the inner child is a reminder that, hey, you did come here to have fun. Your happiness is not dependent on if someone is joining in or not. And that's why I realize have gotten back to within myself, is that I know how to enjoy my own company. And that's again why the inner child is so vital, because I feel so many people have disconnected from that part of themselves that they don't know how to be with themselves, and they unconsciously, due to subconscious programming, cling to the narrative of what codependency is. Because, you know, now, and this happened to me, you know, dealt with some type of abandonment from a caretaker, from a caregiver. Why do they call it caretaker and caregiver? Or guardian. I meant to say guardian. That's interesting. But from some type of caregiver, some type of guardian or parental figure, they probably, most likely, me personally, dealt with some type of abandonment wound, whether emotionally, mentally, you know, all across the board, physically and so forth. So me returning to my inner child is reminding me that I now know how to enjoy my own company and still know how to balance that with other people, because I know that I can be in my own world and be at peace and learn how to navigate through, cope with my own in a healthy way, coping healthily. Because unhealthy coping can come through overextending ourselves. What else? Overindulging into other things, escaping through the fact that we don't know how to be alone. And so the inner child is reminding us, is like that of another term I'll use. It's like connecting to your essence, reconnecting to your gifts, reconnecting to the version of you that, again, someone else's belief system or through their behavior patterns that they learn, whether from a guardian to, you learn the behavior of being neglected so young to where this pretty much in your learned behavior pattern, you learn to just, this is how I'm supposed to go out through life. This is a service. This is how I'm supposed to serve people and so forth without pouring into yourself. And that's the beauty of the reminder. Is that a hawk or something? That's a beautiful bird. But anyway, I got distracted. I'm looking out the window. To where that inner child for me is all of those versions that I can no longer run from. Because when you hear the term, like, I always say, only way out is through. And so think about what your inner child has went through, the little version of you until now. So that spiritual, or whatever you want to use the term, soul, or just that thing that kept you alive through that is your inner child, is the very thing, your essence, the thing that, some people get so far away from that they get consumed in their PTSD or traumas or certain things to where they lose their identity in their careers. They lose their identity as they go into adulthood and so forth. And they've disconnected so much so because one thing about reconnecting to your inner child, you're going to go through experiences like facing those very fears of abandonment, neglect, overcome imposter syndrome, a lot of things that you can research, because I don't know personally what everyone's dealt with, but I know personally what I've dealt with. And so for me, a part of navigating through that also brings up unprocessed emotions, unresolved things that happened to me, to where I realized, like, at times where before I had kids, yeah, I was living life, but then when I had them, it was a mirror of me almost for, like, as a father, I have to remember before fatherhood, there came brotherhood, or before brotherhood, there came childhood. Before adulthood, there came childhood. So the reason I say why the inner child is so significant is because a lot of us don't even realize we're escaping through adulthood, with forgetting about the importance of our childhood. And some of us did not have a childhood. Some of us grew up with the responsibility early of parenting our siblings or parenting our own parents. And so with that, we were given a lot of burdens or taking on a lot of things. And I always remind people, burdens are not so much bad or good. It's more so taking on too much and then lighten your load. I've noticed as healing my inner child or going back into myself, I've lightened the load on trying to take on things I didn't have to, such as the responsibility early of being a man of the house. So when you think about that, I immediately was forced into adulthood very young. I think I was in elementary school, so I wasn't even probably 8, 9, or 10, around that age, to where I was forced into watching 3 toddlers. One was a baby, but 2 was toddlers. Well, 2 was actually babies, because one, I think, was both of them was in diapers, but one was like little. And I've said this before on my other channel, but I'm at a, more secure place and balanced place to express it. But again, this is a part of where my childhood was stripped, or my childhood was bombarded or intruded by someone else's belief system, or, because they took on a narrative of being more so running the streets, my mom and her friend. And so I was left with a responsibility of, I want to be a kid. I want to enjoy my life. That's my birthright. That's a part of my sovereignty. So what ends up happening is that now we gain a belief system that I'm supposed to take on these early responsibilities, where Again, depending on whether you grew up in an abusive home, financial abusive, again, abandonment, neglect, all these things lead to a road of things that are similar where you self-destruct. And what ends up happening is that you lost sight of your inner child, of the very things that brought you joy. Now, I was grateful to still be able to connect to things even through those traumatic experiences, through an abusive household. I was still able to, as a memory come up, using, if you grew up in the South, because I'm from the South Carolina specifically, a small town called Monroe, North Carolina. And I remember in the South, they have like red clay and orange rocks and different color rocks. And I remember specifically, like, I will find ways, not just through the games, but, video games, Sega and Nintendo, but get the rocks and go out there and draw on the street. Little things that kept my inner child, the parts of me, feeling worthy of existing. And so this has come through years of facing my own internal conflict and so forth, things that I projected onto others, things that had nothing to do with others, but things that did have to do with people. That, again, the inner child perspective is realizing how much you were not protected and nurtured, how much you were neglected, because a part of that neglect, internally, you built the world around these traumas. You built the world around this internally. Whether you accept it or not, I had to accept that. And so one of the things I've been doing is renovating what it is, reinventing my identity. So when you go through renovation within your home, you have to face those things that are uncomfortable. So that renovation led to a reinventing of my identity, recognize the reoccurring patterns, the learned behavior patterns, the generational curses that I recognize now are part of those memories connected to the inner child. Is where your gifts are. So even though I didn't have someone who thought it was a priority to protect themselves and their well-being, I realized like that was a part of became my inner world. So I was a part of their nightmare when all I wanted to do was live out my dream. And I'm still doing it now because it's a balance. It's not perfect. It's more so now stabilizing myself in what I'm doing, sharing my message with you all, with whomever who don't know what the inner child is or the significance of it, and realizing like you all have an inner child. You're still unconsciously, whether you know it or not, have a subconscious programming to someone else's belief system that probably doesn't allow your inner child to express itself often, unfiltered, or just authentically, with sovereignty. It's your birthright to come here and express who you are. So where the imbalance or instability comes in is where when you didn't have someone to protect you very young from devices, from the exposure to drugs or people and environments, then you soak this up. You became a sponge. And so that became more of your reality, your internal reality and your external reality. So now, this is where we realize, I always give this analogy where I give you this visual. It's like your little child has been in that corner over there, crying, sad, and every time, due to whatever experience, it looks over his shoulder, he or she, wondering like, when are you going to come and embrace me again? So again, a lot of abandonment wounds, or a lot of what we grew up in, outside of your career, outside of whatever you've gained and materialistically, there's still a little boy, a little girl in you that is crying out because there's something that you are or have escaped through just to obtain that. And when you have your childhood wounds preyed on very young through societal beliefs, through these structures and so forth, you're going. And that's one thing I've learned about diving more deeper into my inner child and learning more about myself and the versions of myself that I could not outrun, is I had to slow down. I made a commitment to content creating. I made a commitment to creating a life that I don't have a vacation from. So I made a commitment to my inner child. This season in my life, I have to have a balance with being showing up for my inner child first. Um, you know, how you go through being a kid, a teenager, into adulthood. There are all different versions of me that I have to embrace. Because I realized through most of my if not all of my childhood to adulthood, I was surrounded by people with a belief system of abandoning themselves, or more so, they were forced into a grandmother and mother, or men, and abusive here, womanizing here, manipulation here, overworking, overexerting themselves, becoming so tired with what they are ignoring within themselves. And so this is a whole different perspective now that I'm living in, a belief system that I gradually become more and more rooted in, because it brings me peace and balance and harmony in my life. And when I show up for me, I'm able to show up for everyone else. It's a balance. So going back to the little girl and boy that's within you that has been in a corner, visualizing like them in a dark space, because how I would give the childhood trauma as a perspective is like, imagine wherever you were on a journey, something could have happened in that home. And for some of y'all, it could have been something sexually, abuse, mental, verbal, whatever it was, where you left that little boy or girl there, that inner child in the corner. You left it there. Even though you didn't know, because no one really told you the importance of showing up for yourself now, as you had to learn, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, or even, whoever sees this. I know it's going to be not for kids, but it's still important to where even when you get this message, you can share it or be a bridge for the kids, because in your showing up for yourself, they're going to be able to pick up on the energy and the vibe regardless. So a part of you have left that version of you that you didn't even realize that was learned and taught through other people. Because when you see their behavior, and once you get this message, you're going to realize they're abandoning themselves. They're escaping through their careers, through the hustle, through the chasing a dream without actually embodying the dream, chasing the love without actually being and embodying the love. And so, that little boy and girl, again, has been in that corner, whether you were 7, the number 9, the age 9, 10, some of y'all even as low as 3, 14, 15, 27, 43, 73, 63. It's very significant because 54, 47, I believe I said already, 25. When you think about this, everyone's experience is different, because some of y'all could have had experiences where the divine, I call it source, most high, whatever you subscribe to, you have went through things where you've had to return home. And a lot of you don't realize, like, it's very significant in that. You had to return home. I had a lived experience where a lot of things I couldn't outrun, no matter what age I was. It was to bring me to a space where the energy was familiar, or it brought up a memory that was repressed, that I had suppressed through whatever I was trying to escape through, whether that be a relationship, that career, and so forth. So with that, I realized that for some of you, it's similar. You had to return home due to a financial rut or something, which is divine intervention. You had to return home. Or you had something happen within a family, someone transition, death, or whatever, my condolences, and you had to return to a hometown or to a childhood home. No matter your age, this is nothing to be shame or feel guilt over. There was still a memory there. There was still a little boy and girl there. No matter what has happened, there was still someone there, and they're still there. Whatever happened there in that room, in that basement, in that closet, in that bathroom, there's something there that you have ignored and you have repressed, and you have to cry. You have to honor it, because the only way out is through. One moment, that horn was for me. I love that you can pause videos now on this, but that was like confirmation. So again, for a lot of you, I'll express there's just something that you need not to hold on to no more. it was never your burden when it comes to the fact of what happened to you. It's not your burden to carry anymore. Again, it's some things that we've carried through intergenerational trauma, if you want to research that, or generational trauma, ancestrally and so forth, is a part of almost regurgitating a cycle that is we don't even realize is familiar because of dysfunctionality. And so no matter your age, again, there's a version of you that is still awaiting, that's still there. That it doesn't know, you know who I'm talking to. It doesn't matter what you look like, how much money you have, your status, wherever you are. There's still a part of you that you're wondering, how am I not ever I get to this place in my life, I reach this peak, but there's something haunting me. There's something haunting me there. Because that little boy and little girl is still there, waiting. You're wondering why your relationships with some of y'all, and it ain't that you're failing in them, is that what you're failing to see is the fact of the little boy and girl within you was never nurtured and loved. So all of this effort towards trying to stabilize and make something work, your instability lies in the repressed emotion, unresolved emotions and memories when it comes to your inner child. Lived experience personally. A lot of my relationships and so forth, I recognize now it was also my role, but it's also what I was regurgitating or repeating, learned behavior patterns. My perspective on how I viewed women subconsciously. I had a deep programming through a wounded lens. And most of us don't realize a lot of our lens and how we see ourselves is not healthy. No matter how much you want to convince ourselves, it's still not healthy. Because someone, what we grew up in, did not see us through a healthy lens. They didn't see us through, a lot of your mothers and fathers did not know how to see themselves through a healthy lens. They didn't even know what it was. I actually might do it on here. The book I just published is called My Villain Era. And I reference my villain era because it's a part of me protecting my inner child now. So to some people, when I don't want to be subjected to dysfunctionality, abuse anymore, whether financially, mentally, emotionally, and so forth, I'm going to be seen as a villain because I choose to stand in love, not fall for it, not fall for and be a fool anymore. I choose to stand now. And so with that, I'm protecting my inner child. And in that, I have kids that are watching me, not just my own, but other kids. The confidence you have to say, I'm not tolerating that. My birthright is to have fun and to experience love and to be the love, to be loved and lovable. And a lot of us are not lovable. We didn't come from environments where they taught us how to be lovable. Why not? Because most of them didn't even know how to love and nurture themselves. So a lot of what we are holding on to, we're not lovable. And this is what karma does to prepare you on a dharma path. You come to learn these lessons, to realize the parts of you, which is your inner child, the parts of you that you place on, you don't realize sometimes we place our ego on a pedestal, the wounded version of us on a pedestal, because that's what the world, these corporations and business preying on the fact of keeping you in motion without resting. Because when you rest, certain things come up. For a lot of you, you have dreams. You have nightmares still at 75, 63, and so forth of a trauma that has followed you, that has haunted you. Something in your childhood has haunted you. And still to this day. This is why some of you don't know how to be alone. There's nothing wrong with being with yourself, finding a balance with being to yourself. I had to prioritize this to even create my content. To even realize I have to find a balance. Because if I don't show up for my inner child, I realize I'm still that inner child that throws a fucking temper tantrum. When I don't get my way, or if something don't goes my way, and in reality, I'm at a place now where I realize that a lot of us, in not knowing how to take care of our inner child, basic needs, when we were young, the people that were supposed to provide us basic needs to survive, to thrive, And so a lot of us don't even realize our inner child within us is still living in survival mode through that relationship, through that career, and so forth. Trying to escape some way, somehow. So for me, it's unfamiliar to a lot of people. Because a part of how I express my communication and shit, y'all don't realize this was me, the very talkative and expressive little boy, very young, who was told to shut up, who was said you're not shit, who was told from very people, there were so many attempts on my life to silence me, the little boy, through whoopings. I gotta turn this on. Through so many things, through abuse, through so many ways. Because I realized these were people who were hurting. Hurt people. They were hurting inside. They had internal wounds. They were hurting. Now I recognize they were hurting. And what they wanted to do was keep me in that place of pain with them. They wanted me to keep living out their nightmare with them. This is what some people do. And sometimes unconsciously we don't even realize when we don't face certain things within ourselves. We've literally convinced ourselves through these cycles, through these loops of cycling the same shit, to really think that we're living out our dream. When Source, the Most High, wants us to actually live out things that we know internally. The joy, the peace, the harmony, the abundance, the prosperous life is not dependent on someone else. We realized that we grew up in environments, for some of us, that people made us codependent on them. And then as we gradually grew, they tried to escape through us, using their happiness to try to escape through us, to smother us as children, to make sure we didn't progress, to make sure that our voice was silenced, to make sure that they projected their fears through narcissism abuse or narcissistic, whatever you want to call it, through controlling. They wanted to make sure that we did not tell our stories. For some of y'all, I'm just a vessel, I'm just a messenger, because I realize this is why I keep going in what I'm doing and stay persistent and stay consistent in this. That's why I'm creating a third, trying to probably create another one, because I got confirmation earlier. When you're talking about a boy that was silenced very young, for some of y'all, the little boy and girl that's in that corner, you were silenced, you were beaten, you were abused in so many different ways. And then for some of you, you gain that, if you want to research this, is very vital, especially to the inner child. Stockholm syndrome, which is a part of like developing, happy feelings, or, becoming loyal to the abuser. When I said that, not only was that a cycle that I had to break and still getting through, for some of y'all, that's very important for you to research, to learn about. You become more loyal to the wound and actually convince yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and so forth, which has plagued your generation and who you are as a man or woman. Convince yourself that, oh, this is all right. No, it's not all right. And it never will be. You've convinced yourself, because that's what trauma has taught you. I recommend, for those who are readers, The Body Keeps a Score. And that's what has happened. Through your inner child, the body has kept the score. The little boy that looks at himself, little girl looks at himself internally, there's a little boy with band-aids. And some of these band-aids on them, these wounds, and some still have fresh wounds that are bleeding out. And I'm giving you this analogy to show you that it's only you that can go and heal that little boy. That adult, you can only go and tend to those certain wounds. And for some of you, you need to know that it's not your job or your position or your obligation to heal other people, to force them to heal. Your mother and father, for some of y'all need to know that when it comes to significance of your inner child healing, is that it's no way you can go inside of them, convince them that they need to see what is hurting them. Because in their inability to do that and face themselves, and they may not ever do it or accept it, That's for a lot of you too. They may not ever do or accept it. That should give you every reason to have the courage to do it. To love on yourself. To realize they're not going to do it. It's the acceptance of that. They don't have to. They don't want to. That's where one of the biggest things I had to learn. My mom, my dad, a lot of people, they were just a part of me showing that those who didn't want to evolve, I had to. My whole perspective as a little boy, a man, teenager, everything, fatherhood changed. I could not ignore the fact of a lot of things unresolved and a lot of learned behavior patterns came from the very people that were supposed to protect me. This is their belief system. And this is how a lot of people go through a loop of repeating the same behavior patterns that they don't even know that they're in. The only way you are able to change and shift your perspective in life is to recognize what have you been in. And a lot of you are running from you. And a lot of you are at a place where, are you going to continue to do it? You cannot do it by yourself. There's a part where you learn to go do it and face it. And then there's a part where the support comes. A lot of you didn't have the genuine support. I had to build that. But I first had to get my own internal world there first. I couldn't force it anymore. I couldn't ignore it. I couldn't ignore the truth about what I've allowed, the roles that I've been playing, what I've accepted, what I no longer would accept. Because my inner child couldn't take on anymore. The little boy, the adult me that's still that little boy, could not take on any more of whatever it was that wasn't healthy for me. That at a time, again, Stockholm Syndrome will make you believe that you're supposed to be loyal and have a loyalty to these people. That sometimes it's dangerous because unconsciously they don't even know that they're in dysfunction. They don't even know that they're hurting. And I know some of us have tried to have talks to certain people. They don't know you. They don't know y'all. You can't force them. And sometimes stepping away is the best option. Sometimes staying away is the best option. So you can get a clear mind. So you can get clarity. So you can bring balance to your life. Because the one thing I always tell people, when you in shit, sometimes you don't even smell it because you've been in it so long. And that's how it is when you're a part of something, whether it's dysfunctional, trauma, and so forth. You've been in it so long and stay so consistent to the loyalty of the wound. You've been loyal to the wound. That you don't even realize that what ends up happening is when your inner child doesn't heal, their internal wounds begin to bleed onto everyone else. Whatever you don't face, whatever you don't try to patch up, and the beauty of a scar is the fact of you knowing that the process of what you got through, because the only way out is through. So I'm gonna leave y'all with this. Come with me. If I'm you, see yourself as me. And that little boy in that corner, that little girl, I want you to give you this visual. Go, get down, and you tell that little boy or girl, and this is just a visual within yourself, I apologize that I abandoned you. I apologize that I abandoned us. Forgive me for what I did not know. I love you, I appreciate you, I value you. And whatever comes up, allow yourself to cry and sit with it. But what you do is you make sure that you grab that inner child's hand, that visual, that little boy, girl, whatever age that, whatever happened, and you hold that little boy and girl hand tight and never let go. Because your inner child never left you. You abandoned your inner child. And for some of you, it's not even your fault. It's not your fault. For some of you, you can pick that inner child up, hold it, because it's like you embracing you again. Looking at that inner child. You're nurturing yourself now. You have to mother and father yourself. I had to go through it. And that's just like a feminine and masculine archetype when you realize the very thing that you missed out on. And this is what's going to help you restabilize your life, because you're going to go through, I'm telling you, you're going to go through things that are so uncomfortable. And for a lot of this, it's going to collapse the foundation that you're on. I have to be honest. This is unfiltered inner child. It will collapse the world that you lived in. You know how they say, what's that saying goes, like the world is collapsing all around them? It's going to happen. Because you're going to recognize what you have built. And what you built, it's been on a lie. And it ain't that so much people lie to you. It's because they've been lying to themselves. And then you come to the self-realization, oh my gosh, I built this on a lie. I built this on a sandcastle. I built the sandcastle. I didn't build it upon a rock. And those emotions that come, that you keep repressing, they hit harder and harder against your sandcastle. And we all know you can't build an empire, you can't build a house upon sand. And every time, that's why I think about this, every time when you building a relationship, you building something in life, you building upon a sandcastle. In the water, your emotions, every time something comes up, washes it away. And here you are. Think about that. That's how trauma is. That's a great analogy. Like, that's how trauma is. Or things that's dysfunctional. You keep trying to build it upon sand. You're scurrying. You're hurrying, trying to build it upon up. To show the world, to try to prove to yourself. Well, it ain't really proving to yourself because you lost sight of that. You lost sight of your inner child, so you're trying to prove to everyone, look at my castle. Look at this. And the water comes, the emotions, the memory, because water is memories. Most of our bodies are made up of water. And then you're born in the water with your mother. So water is very significant. It holds emotions. It holds memories. Well, water is emotions, but it holds memories. When you cry, you think about that memory and it comes up. You're crying. It's memories. Something repressed, the emotions, they come up. So now here you are. You have an opportunity now to build something solid within yourself. And I'm telling you, the world as you knew it, wherever you are, whether you're father, mother, wherever age you are, wherever status, career, and so forth. Again, it's very important and vital that you know that a part of you has to let go. You have to see that stuff wash away and let go. Because the more you keep trying to hold on to it, you're going to find yourself keep trying to build upon something with sand again, nothing solid. And it's not you to blame. Some of us are unconscious of the things that we don't realize that has brought us self-harm in neglecting your inner child. You're gonna bring self-harm among yourself. I mean, you're gonna harm yourself unintentionally. When you don't acknowledge the wounds inside, you're gonna again self-harm, self-abuse. You're gonna be in connections or be a part of things again, abusers and so forth. Not always the case because you don't, these are also people who are unaware. And then you realize I've been in a relationship. I didn't even know this was going to happen to me because no one ever taught you the importance of protecting your inner child. The significance of how vital your intuition is, your discernment, the things that we had very young. The things that we had, when we picked up on very young. A lot of y'all are gifted and going to become even more spiritually gifted and in tune because the inner child was a part of that version of you that never left you. You the one that covered up with money. You got to take accountability. Because as much as you will want those other people, this is a part of you where sometimes it's an inside thing. Because externally, they are to remind you why that is. Because they're still going to be there. They're going to be almost like an opposition. Some people are so stuck, they're going to remind you. They're content and comfortable with their karma or with their lessons. Some of them are at an age where you can't tell them nothing. This is okay to reclaim your power. Again, the little boy and little girl. That's a part of reclaiming your power. You're reclaiming your joy that you thought that was lost. You're reclaiming your authenticity. You're reclaiming parts of you that you thought that your mother and father or someone ever, whatever authority figure in your life, that you gave up. You almost gave up your power. You assume that you gave up these things to these people. You didn't. It's you. I'm here to remind you, you lost sight of that. Because the little boy and girl within you is still there. They're awaiting your arrival. You know where they are. I don't know. You know where they are. You know where those repressed and suppressed memories have come from and come through. The only way out is through. And you now have to make a vow and a commitment to showing up for you, the versions of you that you learned through other people, because they hated themselves. They became bitter. They neglected themselves because they were never shown. For some of y'all, your mother and father, they only showed you from what they learned and what they knew. That's all they had. And for some of them, it was just preparation for you now. They became burnt out. They provided certain things. Some of them didn't know anything else. This is where you have to now give yourself grace and be patient and be kind to yourself again, to show up and embrace you again. Unfiltered inner child here. Love yourself. Take care of yourself. Peace and blessings.